Great to be here.
For the Life Science Office,
Yes.
and also Head of Health at Vinnova.
Also Head of Health at Vinnova. And I'm so happy to be able to be here at the Park Annual again.
Yeah, great.
These are, I think, one of the very best meetings of life science during the year. So many of the companies that we have that are now really taking off globally, I have met for the first time here at Park Annual. So
okay.
that only says something about my network, perhaps, but it also says something about this meeting place. And it was great to see that the spread of actors is so wide now. Industry is here, great, but also all the other actors from the ecosystem. So
that's perfect.
Happy for that.
Another thing here we will do this year, please tell me if I forget about it, but we have people here then with microphones, so you can ask questions. And well, I'm very eager to hear what you say.
So am I.
Yeah?
I always speak a little bit what I feel about for the time. So, and I already see now that my slides become a little bit mismatched when they present, but let's not bother about that. So, and as I said, great to be here, and I already learned 2 new words. What was it? It's not hotspot, it's hotbed. I understand. It's not only co-creation, it's co-action. And I think that that is 2 of the things that we see a lot of within life sciences now in Sweden. And we've seen so much action over the last year. So one may wonder, really, why do we at all need a life science strategy? We've seen totally different types of ecosystems arising. I think that the happening around the AstraZeneca BioVenture Hub has actually changed the way that we collaborate a little bit in Sweden. And what is happening here also now with the new investments in life science in Gothenburg, what is happening at Lindholmen with the new AI investment, which I understand will not only work with mobility and technology, but also life sciences and culture. And I think that that is really so interesting. But we are, I would say, at least one of the leading life science nations. But in order to stay ahead, we do have a lot of challenges. And when Lotta presented, you see that there are so many things going on, but we will definitely keep being challenged within this area, because we're good at collaboration, but we're not so very good at speed. And that is probably what we need to pick up a little bit. There have been quite a lot of investments also from the government side for the past years. We've had a strategic innovation program collaboration with all the actors on board and the national coordinator, Anders Lönnberg, and I've now taking over that role from him. And the role as national coordinator is not only to coordinate nationally, but to be a contact point for international actors that want to have a dialogue with Sweden for investments. So that is something that is continuously growing. And in my Vinnova role, I've really seen that, that happening. Also within production, and I think that that is really important. We should always talk about that we are a strong production nation within life sciences also. Not at least the investments that has come within the biopharmaceuticals, both in Södertälje and in Strängnäs, but also in Uppsala. And I see that the new Testa Center is present here from GE Healthcare. That is also one of the new test beds or hotbeds that are a new place for co-action in that sense. But we also face a lot of challenges, not only from the cost base, but really to be able to attract talents. And moreover, perhaps, we need a common strategy to be able to stay ahead and have Swedish strongholds within life sciences 10 years from now. That is really one of the reasons why we need a common vision and a common strategy. And also, and one thing, and you're probably very good at that here, but many parts of Sweden are not, and that is really telling internationally about really our strongholds and what we are great at in this area, in this field. So that was the reason, after having had a national coordinator for 4 years, the Swedish government in February and the ministers for enterprise and innovation, higher education and research, and social affairs together decided to really start working within the government offices also with the strong collaboration. So my mission as national coordinator and director of the new Office for Life Sciences within the government offices is, and the purpose is extremely broad: promote innovation, knowledge and quality development throughout the sector within academia, industry and healthcare and home care, in order to, of course, improve investments and better conditions for life science investments in Sweden. To be able to go forward with this task of coordination, we of course need to set priorities. That is probably one of the most important and one of the most difficult things to do, because when you prioritize, you also select. But we need to do that. We need to put focus on a few areas so that we can speed up the work. And we need to put focus on the areas that are not happening if we're not doing anything special about it. And that is also why, from the government side, one of my tasks is to put forth a new life science strategy for Sweden. And what this means, I really want to talk to you and have a dialogue with you about today, because it's not a life science strategy from the government. It's a life science strategy for Sweden. And then you all know what the real challenge is about that. And that is about anchoring. Because in Sweden, we can't just decide and then do. We need to anchor, and then we can go really, really far. And so when doing so, I think that we have a lot from industry and academia always on board, but from the healthcare perspective and from the ecosystem, also with the governmental agencies, we all really need to be on board on this. And really to feel from all the strong regions within life science in Sweden that those are really national regions, and we will build on that. But this is really how my team works also within the government. So I have a team with people from all the 3 ministries working together, and we have access to all the competences within the government offices. But that doesn't mean that it's easy, but we definitely have the capacity in order to do so. And my steering committee are the 3 state secretaries from the 3 ministers. Now that is of course a little bit challenging time now. Time-wise is not such a big problem right now, because we are in a phase where we need input to develop a strategy, but soon to be, we really need a decision maker in the House. But we also, of course, a part of the anchoring is to have a great advisory board. And we have the same advisory board that has also been the Innovation Partnership program for the past 4 years. So I didn't have a picture of those, but and those are actors present from the big companies, from AstraZeneca here, from academia, from the healthcare sector, from the professions, because we really need the professions. And I don't know how many doctors and nurses that are working on a daily basis that are in the room, but you're really essential in order to make this happen. But not at least, of course, the patients and us as individuals in that sense, and that because that's really something that we need for co-creation. But we have, of course, the advisory board to give advice, to work on anchoring, and to be a highlight of this also internationally. And when we have people like Carl Bennett on board, that really gives us also an international flair. And when I talk about the strategy, we are really working with a holistic and long-term perspective, because we need to work with these systemic challenges that we have, where we need to see a transformation on the regulatory requirements when we're moving into a new area of medicine, for example. Because we also need to work long-term to be able to attract new knowledge and new competences and new investors. And having the patients and the individuals in the driver's seats gives Sweden a trademark of being really a hub where co-creation and co-action happens. And I see that definitely a lot in my dialogues, because many of the companies are now having that, of course, as a strategy within the corporation itself, to have a patient board, to have a collaboration on that. But that is also, of course, a coming sales argument for Sweden. We're good at collaboration. We're even better at co-creation. Because we, of course, need to set focus much more on prevention and health more than on sickness and care. And if we would have an overall vision of the life science strategy, 10 years from now, maybe we have shifted to putting 90% in care, not to only put 80% focus on care. If we would be able to invest 20% in health, that would be a total revolution. So that is something that also needs to be included in this work. To be able to be internationally attractive and find the next generations of strengths of life sciences in Sweden. So in order to do this, and in order to be able to have a dialogue, we have published a roadmap in June. And the roadmap for life science is not more than an invitation for a dialogue. We want input from all of you, and we want it now, basically. So it's for from the coming month to be able to set forth a first version of the strategy. And I'm looking at the national strategic work as something that we need to do in steps. So we are having a lot of dialogue. Maybe we should take a step back and wait with the strategy for a year so we can work better on anchoring. But then I believe it won't really happen, because if we're not, if the government is not saying that we want to get somewhere and we're willing to put efforts into this, then it's also difficult to start that dialogue. So I'm still working on the timeline that we will have a national strategy around New Year's, which does not mean before New Year. But the three priority areas that we have chosen, those are natural. Those are not, by the way, the content or the disposition of the strategy. But these are three priority areas that we definitely need to work with. And the first, and I would say foremost, if we don't get the work around efficient use of health data in Sweden, we won't be a leading life science nation 10 years from now. We have the unique infrastructure and abilities. We have the really quality of data that all institutions that are working on artificial intelligence are looking for, but we don't have the accessibility for the holistic use of the data. We really need to get around that. So that has to do with interoperability, of course, but it also has to do a lot with the legal jurisdiction and the frameworks. But this is difficult, and this is why we definitely need a dialogue with many of the regions, because the legal jurisdictions from the municipality regions and from the regional data, and you all know that within the Västra Götalands region, that's probably one of the best ways of looking at it, how difficult it is to transfer data when you follow a patient all through the patient's life and the circle. So that's also why we have a lot of regional dialogues with the whole life science office. We've been in Linköping and in Uppsala. We will come to Gothenburg in a couple of weeks just to sit down and discuss these type of challenges. We will be in Skåne, and we will be up in Luleå. So this is some of the areas that we really need to get around in order to get a much more faster and efficient also use of the quality registries and the biobank data that we have. So if you would remember one thing, we will work on a systemic transformation in this area. We don't really know what the biggest and the most challenging actions are. We have it on top level, but we don't have it really granularly, so we need your input on there. There's so many interesting examples happening. For example, in Sweden, the analytical arena around this. This is also a national collaboration. And something that we're really doing great in Sweden is we're taking artificial intelligence and putting it into medical use and medical decision making from the start. So I only have 1 minute left, and I will speed up the talk and round up. But the other two priorities areas has, of course, to do with precision medicine, the individualization of medicine, something when we're going into real-world data, real-world evidence, we will be able to be extremely more precise. This is an area where we really want Sweden to be a forerunner. Also when it comes to policy development, when we're talking about ethics, integrity, security, all those different things together, of course, with the regulatory framework. And last but not least, we need to move over to the paradigm where we have innovation and research and development as part of the everyday work in our whole health.